Welcome back, Mando.
Greetings, Bucketheads. Mavar Tagar. Welcome to our 393rd Ruminating on the Roon Games episode of MandoVision. I am your host, Nargai Tom, and thank you so much for checking out this small independent Star Wars podcast. We're so glad you're here. Make sure to reach out to us on the socials at Mando_Vision on X and Insta. You can email the show, MandoVisionTom@gmail.com. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow, and share this show with all the Mandalorians in your covert. All right, Bucketheads, we're back for another exciting installment of our vintage Star Wars rewatch of Droids. And as you may have heard in the last episode, I am liking this arc far more than the previous one that went on at least one episode too many, but I had sort of mentally petered out of it, I don't know, by the second episode. So I am digging this one. I think it's a lot more enjoyable. Possibly that's because of the inclusion of the Empire and some more Star Warsian elements to the show. But by and large, it's just a better version of the series. And I don't know. Perhaps if they had done this arc in the beginning, maybe the show would have gotten another season. Though, by all accounts, it didn't get a second season due to the budgetary and financial reasons. But, who's to say for sure if that is the case of a 40-year-old animated show? It's hard to say. But, yeah, that's what's going on right now. So, yeah, this is a better arc. This is a better story. This is a better batch of episodes, in my opinion. Some shocking revelations coming out of it. Because, again, I do remember bits and pieces of this arc from my childhood. And the most shocking revelation, based off of what we talked about in our last episode, is that the Governor Kung, actually a governor. I thought that was more of a self-appointed title, but apparently he's the governor of Tontoon. And if that was mentioned in in the previous episode, I completely missed over it. But yeah, no, we find out he's not just some self-appointed space pirate giving himself a title, a fancy title. No, he actually is a governor on one of the Roon worlds. And now we meet people from another area on the planet that have been resisting Governor Kung. Umba, I believe, is the name. And we get to have the Roon Games, which is like, it looks like basically a big fancy horse race. It's got some kind of weird name, like the drainage races, something like that. It's weird. It's a little odd, but so has a lot of the series has been. Now, this is probably the second episode. They love racing, incorporating racing. Remember we had those weird tube races with Boba Fett? I believe it was in episode 4. So, they love the races on the Star Wars. And this time we get some with these creatures that are sort of a mix of horse and kangaroo-ish, because they do some weird jumping things. I don't know. It's a strange episode still. There's a lot of, again, some peculiarity, some weirdness, some oddness. At this point in the run of the series, you have to sort of expect that going in. But we're going to dive right into it. As we record this episode, there's not a lot of, there's no breaking Star Wars news, nothing really to kind of get into of any depth and high interest stuff going on. So let's go ahead and do what we got to do. Let's get the particulars of this episode here for you guys. All right, this is Star Wars Droids, Season 1, Episode 11, The Roon Games. Original air date November 16th, 1985. The plot, Mungo Baobab and the droids crash land on Roon and are pursued by the power-hungry Governor Kung. Our primary cast for this week, we have Anthony Daniels as C-3PO, of course R2-D2. You have Jan Austen, Graham Campbell, Rob Cowan, Dan Hennessy, Pam Hyatt, Michael Kirby, Peter McNeil, Eric Peterson, Winston Rekirk, and John Stalker. Episode, once again, directed by Ken Stevenson. And this time again, Ben Burt gets the story credit, but we get the teleplay by Gordon Kent and Peter Sauter. All right, friends, I think it's time. We're going to get into it. Are you ready? You know what that means. Strap on your buckets. Let's go.
Get out of here. We'll hold them off.
You're going to have to relocate the covert.
This is the way.
This is the way.
So this episode is fairly interesting in several regards because it does focus more on our heroes and less on Governor Kung and Admiral Screed in this one, but we spend a lot of time with Kung's main henchman, the insectoid Gaff, who is out in the field more in this episode, along with another droid that has a weird name, like Bum Gungo, something like that. I'll get that name for you because it was an odd name, and it definitely stuck out as an odd one for a droid. So the governor turns to his goon squad to do things while Governor Kung and Admiral Screed are sort of watching the Roon games and waiting for the governor to sort of envelop and take control of this section of Roon as well as his own to add to Tontoon, which is the part of Roon that he controls. So it's we start with Mungo and the droids still escaping, kind of sort of heading to Roon and getting shot down by Governor Kung's drone fighters. They crash down on the surface, and again, Gaff and that weird named droid who has a weird snooty face look like they think they're dead. They think Mungo's dead. He's no longer a threat. He's actually just crashed. They're fine. And they find themselves surrounded by these weird mudmen creatures. Big clay face vibes. These creatures, they start off as one big giant one, but as you sort of combat them and they break apart and they splatter into little different mud puddles, they become individual little creatures, more individual little creatures. I have no idea if there's some sort of hive mind in play with them or if they become individualistic in some fashion. No idea. They didn't really bother to explain it. But yeah, there's these mud creatures. And yeah, it's interesting, I suppose. And as they begin to deal with that threat, again, they're sort of easy enough to get away from and to deal with. Witnessing the crash is also a local young athlete in a Jane Fonda Adidas-esque leotard, Oren Yam, and her father. Oren comes to the rescue and explains that the mud creatures, they're normally pretty harmless, and hey, don't worry so much about these mud men. Well, it turns out there's another threat in play here too, because Gaff realizes that they have crash landed on the back of a big giant creature named the Shamanar. The Shamanar, Gaff and Bumbixo, or whatever that droid's name is, they awaken the Shamanar, and is a big Brontosaurus-esque creature. His head's kind of snake-shaped. It's got that snaky diamond head shape, but a big Brontosaurus-y looking creature that causes them immense problems. But eventually they are able to escape and sort of subdue the creature. They tire out the Shamanar, because these Shamanar, they hibernate for long periods of time. So the Shamanar was woken up, started awake, but was probably still pretty sleepy from the hibernation. So we find out from Oren about these Roon games and how Governor Kung is attempting to take over this part of the planet. But these games sort of determine that the Umbians can sort of retain their independence from Governor Kung if they win these games, and that's sort of what's been going on. So that's why the games are so important. Admiral Screed, he's coming along for the ride for this one. We don't really get a lot out of Screed in the Empire in this. He sort of is there as he's like, oh, the Emperor would like these games, blah 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 blah. But again, he's very tertiary in this episode. He's barely in it. The Empire has minimal presence in it. It's all on Kung and his goons in this one. So Mungo and the droids they now have an interest in seeing that Governor Kung does not usurp this territory, because again, they're trying to establish that trade route, get the rune stones out into the world, or out into the galaxy. So anything that slows down Kung is a good thing. So Mungo decides that they're going to help compete at the games. And that becomes especially important when Gaff and that droid decide to sort of sabotage by taking out a couple members of the Umbo racing team, G-Long and Bix. Bix is a droid. They power him down, unplug him, can't get enough charge, and they sort of poison G-Long, which means Mungo and 3PO are going to have to step in. Now, also what's going on at this point, as Gaff is making his move around and sabotaging things, we find out that Gaff can actually poison people. Like, he's got like these spiky things on his these sort of spiky appendages on his arms, very insectoid-like. And at one point he poisons or drugs Mungo with them, and he'll do the same thing later on, because they got to worry about this Drainsweeper race that they're doing. This is like the big event for the Roon games. If there were other events in the Roon games, we didn't get to see them. I assume there was more than one game, but it all comes down to the Drainsweeper race, and we get to see C-3PO racing. I want to go back a little bit to the Shamanar, because there is a weird little... Again, there's always something super weird in these episodes. And again, I put that asterisk in there. I'm aware. This is a children's cartoon from 1985. We already see C-3PO and R2-D2 doing things that we would never see them do in the movie, moving in ways that they can't possibly move in the films. Obviously, whenever I see C-3PO running, it gives me a bit of a chuckle, because that droid was not the most flexible, not the most agile. But there's a scene in this one where they're trying to get away from the Shamanar, heading towards a cave, and C-3PO jumps on R2-D2 so that R2-D2 can roll them away to safety. It was interesting. And then also with the Shamanar, again, because there's weird, quirky things in this episode, Mungo wants them to distract the Shamanar, and they decide to make faces at the Shamanar. And C-3PO can't make a lot of faces, but R2 shoots out all kinds of weird things from his dome. There's like, I don't even know. There's like a twirly thing and like a big ribbon that maybe is supposed to like a tongue, like sticking your tongue out. It's hard to say. But yes, weird, quirky things in this episode, as is the case in most of them. The one trope we don't get in this episode is nobody's captured. There's no capturing of our heroes ever in this episode. And again, I think that's it helps keep the focus on our heroes and away from Governor Kung and Admiral Screed. And again, we're mostly following that droid around and Gaff, the insectoid creature who works for Governor Kung. Anyways, to sort of get back to it, again, Mungo and C-3PO have to step in and do the Drainsweeper race. C-3PO is going to go first, and he's not going to do well, but he stays on the creature, the little horsey-esque creature, and passes the baton to Mungo, and Mungo makes up the distance. Meanwhile, Gaff has tried to, again, they're trying to cheat. They've knocked out the racing team, and now there's like this Drainsweeper. There's like a drain that the racers get knocked down into. Like, you can knock the other racers off of their riding creature, and they go down this little drainy thing. But there's down at the bottom of the drain, there's this guy with a gravity device that catches you and lowers you safely to the ground so you're not hurt. Gaff poisons this guy, knocks him out, and changes the settings so that instead of catching you softly, it's going to pull you down faster so you smash into the ground and presumably die. Well, guess what? Our heroes don't fall into that trap. Oren Yam, she does a good job. She's able to take the evil droid and take him out of commission. And he goes crashing down into the ground. Meanwhile, R2-D2, for some reason, has one of these little mud creatures in a glass jar for most of the episode. And it's weird. I don't know why he would do this. Again, I don't know the level of sentience of these mud creatures, but it feels weird to see a droid keeping another presumably living being in a glass container. And the only reason why I would assume they do this is so that later on in the episode, R2 can do what he does, which is open the glass jar and pour it over Gaff's head to help incapacitate him and help save the day. Because that's what he does. And they win. They win the Roon games. Our heroes win the Roon games. C-3PO gives R2 his medal because he believes R2 is the real hero of the day for everything he did behind the scenes to make sure that they could win the race and to stop Gaff and the Tontoon team from cheating further. And and we get to find out Arinyam, I think she's catching feelings for Mungo. She gets all upset that he might be leaving now to go pursue his gems. He's like, well, I'm only leaving if we don't find any rune stones there, little lady. And she's like, well, you know what there, you big strapping hunk of man? I am going to help you find them rune stones. They don't say it like that. It's, but they kind of say it like that, if you read between the lines. That's sort of our subtext for the day in the episode. So yes, we are setting up Mungo attempting to acquire more runestones. However, I suspect that we have not seen the last of Governor Kung, nor the last of Admiral Screed and the Imperials, as I suspect they will play a bigger role in our next couple of episodes as we rocket towards the conclusion of our vintage Star Wars Droids rewatch. I am liking this arc far more than the previous. I'm going to stay in like that 6.5 to 7 buckets lane for this. I think it's more enjoyable. Yes, it's weird and quirky, but it's not nearly as irritating and agitating as the episode, as several of the episodes in the previous arc were. Gas's voice is annoying, but you kind of deal with it, get over it, move on. Kung's voice isn't great either, I'll be honest with you. It's very 80s-esque in the voice work, like the bad guys are the bad guys from the way they sound, the tone of voice, you just know. It's very classic cartoon stuff. So yeah, I'm going to stay in that 6.5 to 7 bucket lane. And I'm excited to see where we go next because, again, this has been a sort of a redemption arc for the show. If the middle arc was the low point, we're actually doing better than the first arc of the show. So we're going up as we get closer to the end, which is nice to see. All right, so that's it. As I said before, there's not a lot of news on the Star Wars front as we record this. If anything changes, of course, stay tuned for bonus episodes where we will talk about that. We'll be probably doing a comic book episode in the near future where we'll talk about the new Kylo book. We'll talk about the Droids comics that Marvel produced, that Dark Horse produced, and sort of how they may relate to the animated series in a fashion. And I think that'll be a fun discussion, even though those comics are a little dated, specifically the Marvel ones. But we'll talk about it, because that's what we do on a Star Wars podcast. We talk about Star Wars things. Meanwhile, I am gearing up for our next big rewatch into the fall. And I have to sort of check the calendar before I announce it to make sure everything's going to line up the way I need it to. Because I would like to make sure that we get into an Ahsoka discussion before that comes back in January. All right, so those are sort of the plans coming up. But things are shaping up for a solid fall. And again, I believe we can maintain the 2-episode schedule, at least for the time being. I'll keep you posted on if anything changes, but at least one a week, for sure. That will continue unabated until the very, very end. All right, friends, go out there. Enjoy the rest of your week. Again, we've talked about it before. I assume the weather is still not kind where you are, but if you are where I'm at in the southwestern part of the United States, we are getting blasted right now, and it is not fun. So, make sure you're staying hydrated. If you have the air conditioner, stay close. But, be careful because, that bill gets high really, really fast. But it's totally worth it. So, be careful out there. Stay hydrated. Stay out of the sun. Stay in the shade. 99 in the shade, right? That's what they say in Bon Jovi world. Anyways, we'll be back next week to talk more Star Wars with y'all. Go out there. Be great Star Wars fans. Kind, supportive, respectful, understanding, patient, tolerant, and awesome. And remember, we are on the socials, so find us, support us, check us out. Mando_Vision on X and Insta, MandoVision at Blue Sky. You can email the show, MandoVisionTom@gmail.com. Another reminder to please like, subscribe, follow, and share this show with all the Mandalorians in your covert. And if you can, if you're so inclined, sweet, 5-star reviews. Everyone who takes the time to do that, you are in I am in your debt. So thank you. All right, this is the MandoVision podcast, and I am your host, Nargai Tom. We'll be back next week with more exciting Star Wars conversations. But remember, in the meantime, this podcast, it only ends one way. This is the way.
This is the way.
This is the way.
This is the way.
Admiral, we have enemy ships in Sector 47.
It's a trap!